Besides actually doing this day to day and delving into the research, one of my favorite things to do is to dig into the history of strength and conditioning and see what all I can glean from some of the athletes in eras past. With that, I want to talk about a man who beat Pat Casey's record, the Scranton strongman, Big Jim Williams. Now, who's this guy and why is he important to the history of strength sports? So, like I mentioned in a previous video, Pat Casey was the first individual to break the 600-pound raw bench press barrier. Well, Big Jim Williams was the guy who beat his record. Depending on what source you look at, Pat Casey benched 615, 622, 617. Big Jim Williams beat that with a 635 in 1971. Now, mind you, at this time on the planet, there were less than 5 men that, on record, had benched over 600 pounds. In 1972, Big Jim Williams went on to press 675. He also had an 865 competition squat, which at that time was absurd. Both those big lifts, the 865 squat and the 675, those were just with ace bandages as wraps, elbow and knee. So no bench shirt, no squat suit, just raw horsepower and like ace bandages that you can get at, CVS for $10. And this is in the early 70s. That's insane. So why does this matter? Well, there's a lot of modern lifting takeaways from guys like Pat Casey and Big Jim Williams that you might practice or know of or have learned, and you don't necessarily know the history of the sport or where they came from. So, like Pat Casey, Big Jim Williams was a fan of a lot of supplementary tricep work. He believed that was key to his pressing power. You might be familiar with this exercise, which now everyone calls the Tate Press on account of Dave Tate from Elite FTS and Westside Barbell. And this is an excellent exercise to develop your triceps for lockout strength in the bench. But these originated from Big Jim Williams back in the late 60s and early 70s and were popularized by Dave Tate, who, by the way, has a fantastic YouTube channel and website. And his motto, which I have the utmost respect for and share as well, is live, learn, and pass on. He's been a tremendous resource, a monolith, if you will, in just putting out free content for, it's well over a decade now. I strongly recommend, if you enjoy my content, you definitely go over to Elite FTS and read some articles or check out his YouTube channel. So, back to Big Jim Williams. Another thing that I've taken from reading about him, and he actually has a manual that exists online as a free PDF. But one of the things that I took from him early on is, do a warm-up and, 1 or 2 ramp-up sets, and then your working sets where you're really trying to kind of build strength and hypertrophy simultaneously, indexing a little bit more on the strength side, hit 7s, 6s, 5s, triples, these kinds of things. In the years before the research, it was guys like Big Jim Williams that were really leading the charge, kind of playing around with these things to see what works. And then another big takeaway that I got from Big Jim Williams is pressing in a straight line. Early in my lifting career, I used to always press in an arc, and I'd press really wide. The problem is I have narrow clavicles and really long arms. I never understood early in my lifting career that I'm not leveraged to press in that manner. But what I learned from Big Jim Williams is to press in a straight line, doing so by gripping hard and spreading the bar, which is the origin of the Big Jim Williams extensions now known as Tate Presses. Because when you do Tate Presses, what are you doing? You have two dumbbells inwardly facing each other with elbows outwards away from the center line, as if you're grabbing the barbell and trying to spread it out. What that motion does is it immediately engages the triceps as soon as you unrack the bar. And sure, benching is mostly a pecs thing, otherwise people wouldn't be tearing pecs benching, but I don't know if I would have even gotten past 2 plates without digging in the archives and seeing how the OGs did it back in the day before all the research. Success leaves clues, folks. And I love and appreciate living in 2024, but there's a lot to be learned from some of the greats that have been there and done that. Thanks for watching.